Hello and welcome to Rauta's Reviews. This time it's about experimental doom meeting sludge. This one is a rather new band from Finland called Scornful Enlightenment with an album called I, or just number one. Can't really be sure about it, but let's call it Roman numbers as the one. Now this one is almost a 60-minute release with a self-financed digipack, mostly operated by mostly composed by one man. As you can see here, all music lyrics and arrangements done by Mavortis, except I guess it has lyrics from a poem by Dylan Thomas. But this is not purely done by just one man, but the others are more or less conspirators of the unknown, like it has said here. So either session or guest musicians or just musicians not participating so much in the songwriting. And like I said, this is combination of doom and sludge. Maybe more on the doomier side with experimental touch, but not exactly purely that either. An interesting genre for sure, and I'll try to elaborate on that while I guide you to the Metal Archive site for the band. Now this first is member Mavortis. As you can see, he is famous for a lot of bands here in Finland, mostly I guess for the band Verge and Funeral Bell, ex-member of that, but also he has other projects, which I think one of the latest one is that Poisoner Black Trash one, which I reviewed some while ago, but there are other bands as well. And then there is his co-conspirator O, which is said to be handling the rest of the instruments. Now, this I is an interesting release for a couple of reasons. First of all, when I say experimental doom, I really literally mean that. By experimental sides, it's more like going in a little bit different directions than your typical Black Sabbath-like, venture, like, hey, let's have these doomier slow tempo parts and the kind of epic singing and all that stuff. I mean, it's there, basically, but quite different, quite more modern version of that. And maybe a little bit darker, a little bit less rockier. I mean, in the sense of rock and roll and heavy metal married in hell. And also there are these sludgier parts, but not exactly going like too much into that kind of a noisiness or this kind of a sludge kind of a thing where sound is like mushy and super heavy. So certainly Scornful Enlightenment sounds heavy, yes. But it also sounds dark, which I guess is partially because, Mavortis' background is mostly with bands operating in the field or genres of black metal. He has quite a few black metal bands or black trash bands and stuff like that, so I guess this kind of a darker aspect comes from there. But it's definitely not so easy to approach as you would say many doom bands are because of their kind of a prototype heavy metal. And also because, the kind of a epic singing, bands like Candlemass and the like, where, it's more like slow tempo heavy metal, if you will. But Scornful Enlightenment is like a couple of steps away from that. First of all, the vocals are not exactly very epic when it comes to clean. Actually, half of them are more like kind of a grunting. Not exactly growling, but kind of a dirtier and dustier, ways of singing, which then can actually work nicely with this kind of stuff. The other part are just, clean vocals. But unfortunately, that is one of the flaws with this album because the clean vocals are not very good. And I think if there was one thing which I would hope to change with the band when it comes to their later releases and new songs is that get a really good vocalist, because this is the kind of stuff that it would really take the benefit out of it. I mean, good vocalist would actually lead this band. Now they have pretty okay riffs, there are decent ideas here and there, and can't really say the production is bad either. I mean, it's kind of a DIY kind of a thing, so there is this homemade feeling, if you will. But this kind of a dirtier production that is as opposed to super clean and crisp and all, fits this kind of music quite nicely. And like I said, this darker aspect of experimental doom works for the favor of the band, yet not still being neither on side of stoner music, stoner rock, or sludge. So it's kind of avoiding these corners of where doom metal is so often going. but also avoiding the so-called epic doom, which I don't think is necessarily maybe a good idea. Maybe it is, but this could definitely need better vocalists. Actually, those clean vocals at some points kind of remind me of some karaoke singers, which is, by the way, not a compliment here, even though I know there are lots of good karaoke singers. But if you mostly go to Finnish karaoke bars, you will get your ears bleeding. And obviously, this is not as bad, but definitely good. Use some good practice with the singing, or just get a proper vocalist that would, give us goosebumps because it's so goddamn good. So this is more like a demo-ish version of an album that could have been, but instead the band opted to go for a full album by themselves as an independent self-financed release. And maybe 60 minutes is just too much of it. Maybe if this had been something like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, it would have been more enjoyable, because now there is like too much of everything. It's like repeating too much that stuff which isn't that good, and the lack of really, really good vocals is kind of hurting it. Well, that's my opinion anyway. You might differ, and you might be even right about it. I mean, these are after all matters of taste. So, like I said, a potential band, what not there yet. More like a demo phase, what could have been. And that goes with so many independent self-financed bands. But in case you are interested in it, check out the links provided in the description box and give this band a listen. Maybe it is indeed your cup of tea. At least it's not your typical boring clone doom band. So there is that. But you decide for yourself. Give it a go or give it not, up to you. Meanwhile, thank you, and see you soon with more reviews coming your way. Take care.